Hello, hello, and happy Monday to you all. I hope that today is starting off awesome for you. I know sometimes Monday, people get the Monday blues, the Monday blahs, not excited to go back to work. Maybe you're stressed out and you've got a job that just really stresses you out. And it's really about how you approach your job. It's really all about your attitude, your mindset. So if you're working somewhere and you just don't like it, you are just like done, maybe you need to really try to figure out what it is that you really want to do, or just approach it a different way. Having that attitude of gratitude when you go out into the world and you have an attitude of gratitude, just try to look at it that way, instead of always, looking for, the negative in things. Try to look for the positive in things. And hopefully, by doing just that, you're setting yourself up for success. But that's really up to you, right? It's really up to how you decide you want to show up. So today I wanted to come to you about something that I thought of. I have actually set out some topics for this week that I want to talk about, but today I wanted to come to you mainly about success, because as you're starting a new week, I want you to start this off with the right mindset, knowing that, in order for you to succeed, you need to work smarter, not harder, because success is not defined by working harder, contrary to popular belief. A lot of people think that. So here's a quote. So I was reading an article, and in this article, they have a quote by Kathleen Kennedy, which basically says, success is always a matter of some luck and timing. So that's true. Now, this is an article from a couple of years ago, but, it's still relevant to today. A 2014 study by the Pew Research Center found that 73% of Americans believe that on a scale of 1 to 10, hard work is a 10 when it comes to success or getting ahead in life. Furthermore, when asked about whether success is determined by outside forces like your financial upbringing, 57% of Americans say that financial independence is not determined by outside forces. So, as optimistic as this belief might be, realistically, success is more complicated than your work ethic. So, a lot of the time, again, people think, oh, working harder is going to get me ahead, it's going to get me noticed. Not necessarily. America is the land of opportunity, but not necessarily equal opportunity. So the American culture tries to desperately instill the idea that success is an equal opportunity available to everyone, that the rich and successful are all people who earned their wealth through hard work. That's not always true. Some people were born into privilege, and through just their circumstances were able to get ahead a lot quicker than someone who maybe grew up poor, who didn't have the access to the things that the person who was rich did. And so in which case the impoverished, struggling, unsuccessful people would be responsible for not overcoming their terrible circumstances. Had they only worked a little harder, gotten better grades in school, and tried to make something of themselves, they would have been prosperous, right? No, the answer is no to that. It's wrong. There are a couple of issues with this attitude. So besides presenting the world as a black and white picture of all the diligent people and all the lazy people, it's also just not statistically true. Hard work does not always yield success. As an entrepreneur, I know that if I could be spinning my wheels doing things, thinking, oh, I'm working hard to get ahead, and I could just be doing just that, what I said, spinning my wheels. You could be working hard at doing something, but if you don't have your pulse on what it is that you really need to be doing, you could be doing a lot of unnecessary things that you think you're working hard, but you're actually not working smart. So before you go into dissecting the reasoning behind this, let's define what hard work and success really mean, or what they look like in the real world. So I'm talking about financial independence or prosperity. Others might define it by happiness, but it's much harder to grasp happiness than it is income. So in the Oxford Dictionary, hard work is defined as a great deal of effort or endurance. And many people think that their individual abilities control their success. But here's the reality of making it in real life. It all really boils down to circumstances, how and where you grew up. So when I said some people are, they're rich, they're like really successful, they might have been born into privilege. And so they had the resources to go after what they wanted a lot easier than someone who was poor and actually had to figure out how to pay for something, how to pay for their education, how to pay for courses, classes, whatever it was, to get their degree, to get what they needed in order to succeed at what they wanted to do. And that's a harsh reality, right? Because sometimes we may not have access to things to achieve our goals, not because we're not smart or that someone is smarter than us, but because they have access to some things easier than others. That's it. So it's not that hard work doesn't play a part in achieving success. It's just that circumstances play a much larger role in your financial independence in adulthood. So again, coming from a person who was of privilege growing up, they had access to maybe the best education, they had access to funds that were able to help them get started in a new business venture. Or on the other hand, the flip side, you've got the person who's poor, who didn't really have access to the education, had to quit high school to go to work to support, their family, meaning their parents' work, but they also had to contribute to the household to make things go the best way. That's kind of like, I didn't quit high school, but I could only go through to a certain, like I finished high school, yes, but I couldn't go through a lot of college courses just because my circumstances wouldn't allow that. So I took some courses later on in life based around what I was doing, but I didn't go directly from high school to college or university. No, I didn't do that. I just wasn't able to. And so that just means, as I said, someone who might be poor grows up with less access to things, where someone who's rich grows up with full access to things that the person who didn't have that, privilege. It just means that they have to find ways to apply themselves, especially if the road is harder or longer to get there. All I say is just don't give up. Another thing, just because someone might have had access to education that you didn't, doesn't mean that they're smarter than you. So someone who actually has the ability to go to college, to go to university straight out of high school, because their parents were able to pay for it, they had this privilege given to them. And someone who wasn't able to do that, but has to go on to go directly to work, or maybe does find a way to go to college or university on their own dime, but then they're accumulating student debt. Yes, you have to work that much harder to pay off your debt, yes. But that doesn't make that person who got in with having it paid for them, whereas you had to pay for it, doesn't make them smarter than you. What makes a person smart is how they apply themselves. Are they willing to go the distance? That makes you smart. You need to figure out how to put yourself in front of the right people as well. That takes drive and determination. So I like to think of, sometimes they say it's not what you know, it's who you know. A lot of the time that is really, really true. Who do you know in certain industries that you want to get into? Or who do you know that knows someone in those industries that you want to get into? A lot of the time when I was working as I was working in a law office setting, I was very lucky, I was very blessed, because I made really good relationships with the people that I worked for. All of the lawyers, the people that I worked with the other paralegals. And what was really great about that, it was because I had amassed myself a great circle of people that I worked with that I could call on if I needed assistance maybe, or advice, or a reference to help me get onto the next position. So I've moved around a little bit, from country to country, from Canada to the US, back to Canada, and now I'm back in the US. And during that process, I moved to Florida, then I was back in Toronto, over to New Brunswick, across the country to British Columbia, down to California, now over in Nevada and Las Vegas. And during that time, how did I get jobs? By being in another place, especially another country. I was very blessed to have connections. It was the people that I knew that were able to, because of my work ethic, were able to say, look beyond the fact that I wasn't in the country, that I was coming back. They knew what my work ethic was. They knew the quality that I would put forth in my work. And so I was afforded the ability to get a job before I even set foot back in my new place. Same thing for going, so that was when I was going back to Toronto, then going to the New Brunswick. People that I knew within the firm, new relationships that I had made within the firm that knew I was moving to New Brunswick, helped me to get a position there. How? Through their connections, and that helped me to secure a job before I even moved. Fast forward, then I'm going to British Columbia. I did this by myself. And what did I do? Because I had great references from the people that I had worked for, that got me in the door to a few places, and I ultimately got a job before I even moved to British Columbia. And they were just waiting on me when I got there. Now, the one thing I can say is when I moved to California, we didn't do that. That was the hardest move I think that we've made, but it was a lesson learned. Need to plan. Okay, so again, anyone who preaches that hard work is the sole key to success is fooling themselves and the people who they're telling this to. The uncontrollable circumstances surrounding a person's life, along with luck and timing, play a much larger role in financial prosperity. So it's not because someone's smarter than you, not because they work harder than you, not because they have maybe access to more resources than you do. It's really about your drive and determination that will help you to overcome maybe not having access to those things, maybe your circumstances of where you were born and where you grew up. Okay, so what? So maybe you grew up in the projects. And yes, it's going to be harder for you to get to your goal. But with the drive and determination, because you want this for yourself, you can achieve it. Just because the guy down the street who has access to the resources that you don't, he's not smarter than you. Just because he lives in a nicer neighborhood, in a bigger home, and has more money, does not mean that he's going to get more successful than you. Because if you apply yourself, you can be just as or more successful than people that you look to thinking that they're successful. Do you see what I'm saying? So success is not defined by working harder. Yes, working hard is a part of the process, but it just depends on where you are coming from, like what your circumstances are. You might have to work a little bit harder than someone who's had that privilege of growing up with easy access to the resources that you were not. So that's the part of working harder. But it doesn't mean that you have to work harder to get ahead. You have to work smarter. So I hope that this resonated with you. I hope that this helped you. I did not introduce myself at the beginning of my live because I wanted to get right to it. But my name is Leslie Gaudette, and I'm an empowerment coach. What I do is I help my clients get a handle on their mental clutter so they're freed up to pursue their dreams and aspirations and turn their visions into their realities. I hope this is helpful for you. If you need someone in your life to hear this, please share this video. And if it helped you, I'd love for you to just kind of comment and let me know what resonated with you. Put a comment below and let me know if something, hit home or you could agree on or you could relate. If you want to PM me privately, go ahead. I love talking. I love to connect with you and share with you things that help you get over your mental clutter so that you're freed up to pursue whatever it is in life that you want to. Make sure that you go out today with an attitude of gratitude. It will help you, especially when life decides to show up, throw a dart, it hits, and how do you handle the stress and the anxiety from that? As long as you have the right mindset and you have a good attitude, you'll be able to get through it. I promise you. So I hope you have a great day. Until tomorrow, I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.